how does this money get spent, though? We have a lot of money that's coming in through esports. You guys sponsor a lot of different teams. Something that's actually been talked about in the past. On our very first episode, we had people come in and say that if a game succeeds and you have a lot more revenue coming in for one particular team, for a lot of teams, that was League a few years ago, whenever that took off, that money doesn't necessarily get invested back into that League division. It can oftentimes get invested back into a different game, or what is the next upcoming game, or how are you going to support more aspects of the of your operation. So how do you guys split the difference between ensuring that when a player gets popular, they're fairly taken care of, they're fairly compensated, and also expanding and growing the rest of your business at the same time?
And this argument's been used a lot. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about a player union and how players are so overlooked and players are so neglected. And I'm not against player union in any stretch of the imagination, or association, I think would be a better word. If done right, you know, the players do need to move that direction as the sport matures. But I think what you see more often is when money comes pouring in from a certain gaming title, people in our type of position start seeing those numbers, they start seeing the eyeballs, and it's kind of our job to move and gravitate towards that game. So the more demand for players, player salaries always go up. It's historically proven. If a game starts taking off, the player salaries take off. And why is that? It's because we're so damn competitive. People are saying, oh, the owners are getting rich and driving Ferraris and the players aren't making any money. We were talking before the show started. We have a bunch of gamers that make a lot more money than we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as the competition for these gamers increases and continues on this upward momentum, I mean, the gamers are going to get their piece of the pie. I'm not advocating against an association or whatever, but I see a lot of these comments on Reddit and other places where they're like, oh, the poor gamers, they're starving in their mom's basement. And that's simply not the case. If your game takes off and you're damn good at your game, the money's going to find you.
Mm-hmm. So let's expand on that. You said the magic words. You said Players Association, and we should talk about it at some point. If not, then to just talk about salaries. There have been team organizations that have been tentatively getting together to try and force demands upon certain tournaments and things like that. Where are we going with any sort of a regulating body, whether it's a Players Association, it sits over the top? What are your guys' predictions for that? Some people say it's an eventuality and it's just going to happen. Some people say, no, it has to happen right now. Where do you fall on that?
I want to see more regulation, and the sooner the better. I want to see more leadership amongst all the different industry players. So the players, the team owners, the developers, there needs to be more governance on how we run these tournaments, how players are treated, how tournaments should be run, just kind of minimum standards that we all find acceptable. You know, to your earlier point, though, with regards to player salaries and trying to figure out how all of that works out. I mean, I want nothing more than players to make as much as possible. I think the tougher question that we haven't asked yet, maybe, is how do you discern the difference between sustainable versus non-sustainable, right? So in certain regions, if somebody wants to come in and just spend, you know, let's say $100 million, and just what does that do? Well, can you run a $100 million business in esports in a profitable way if you're paying players $5 million a year? Mm-hmm. Can you do that? And that's non-sustainable versus a sustainable model. So that is, to me, I think, the tough part of figuring it out, because at least I can speak for TL. I mean, we do an amazing job on paying our players, and we always try to, and the market rates are like changing, you know, every week. It's like trying to figure out what they are, right? But as soon as a new big revenue source comes in, well, we got to siphon off a percentage for our players. You know, like that's the way we do things. But it's just it's trying to compete with when it's not that, and it's not driven off of the revenue coming in, and it's off of outside investment.
Yeah, and what he said about sustainability, I think, is really important to emphasize. I said earlier I'm very bullish on the financial future of esports, and I am, but I want to make a prediction about next year, 2016. 2016, in my personal opinion, is going to be the year of venture capitalists coming in on the team side. We've seen a lot of venture capitalists over the years, and most of it's kind of been in either like software or with the leagues themselves. Next year, you're going to start to see venture capitalists come in on the team side, and that is also going to benefit the players. But there's dangers. There's, like, you know, warning, Will Robinson going on here. When a flood of money comes into a space, that can create large bubbles, and it can create problems, because Joe Smith comes out of Hollywood, you know, with $80 million and starts offering our gamers these huge salaries. It looks all great, and people are making money for a little while, but is it sustainable? History would prove in the business world it's not. And history would prove in the business world a flood of money, if not carefully managed and properly apportioned, can damage an industry. If we have a lot of new money coming into the space that doesn't care so much about gaming as they do capitalizing on the hot girl at the current prom type of situation, there's going to be a lot of problems. So while I am bullish, I'm trying to sound some alarm bells for people that care about such things and follow such things. Be very careful, because this flood of money can end up hurting esports and setting us back rather than pushing us forward.